Houston at Tennessee. Now, I don't know about you. I'm attacking this matchup presuming that CJ Stroud is not going to play. Although I've seen reports just before we came live, Bobby Slowick saying he's hopeful and confident that CJ Stroud may play. So does this matchup potentially change massively if Stroud does a go?
Yeah, I think it does. We've definitely seen enough of Davis Mills over the last couple of years. And Slowick also mentioned that they've been preparing Davis Mills to be able to start. And I think that the Titans are a bad enough pass defense that you could have some level of faith in the pass catching options. But whereas if Stroud was going out there and it was like, okay, Noah Brown is playing with him and is going to be the wide receiver one, you can go, okay, well, back in week 9 and 10, he had points of over 24 in back-to-back games. Robert Woods, yes, CJ Stroud could consistently get him the ball. John Mechie saw a season-high 5 targets last week, but only had 1 catch for 6 yards. So it'd be a lot easier to talk yourself into that kind of situation if Stroud was out there. But do I want to start questionable players with a questionable quarterback? It becomes really difficult for me. I think that the under on this game would become even lower than 37.5. I think you could see it drop down to sort of 36 quite easily. Because on the other side of the ball, the Titans, apart from against on Monday night for the last 2 minutes of the game, they haven't really been getting it going. Will Levis has been very average at times. You know, he's been crept into the top 20 quarterbacks in back-to-back games for the first time. DeAndre Hopkins, he's been a top 20 wide receiver in 3 of the last 4, but only when he's been scoring touchdowns. He's only had 1 top 20 finish without a touchdown in the last few games. It's a really tricky one to figure out, okay, where do the points come from here? Do they come from Chigozie Okonkwo because the Texans give up the 3rd most fantasy points to the position? Or is it going to be an old-school Derrick Henry game? This game, when the fixtures came out, best ball fiends were talking themselves silly, saying Derrick Henry gets to play the Texans twice in the fantasy playoffs. That is worth drafting him in the 2nd round alone. Ignoring the fact that there was going to be a new scheme coming in, lots of new defensive players. And what we've seen is, yes, Derrick Henry has had some vintage performances this year, but the Texans, they rank 13th in DVOA against a run. And Tyjae Spears has actually been the one who's been creating some real juice at times. Like over the last 2 games, he had 20 touches for 88 yards, 13 touches for 118 yards. He's been a top 20 running back for the last 2 weeks. And I think as a flex play, I'd probably have more faith in Tyjae Spears outperforming expectations than I think Derrick Henry is going to. So it's a muddy one, this one. I think you've really got to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and on the Spears note, I feel like I've been banging the drum for the last probably, what, Tom, 10 weeks, telling you to go out and buy him in Dynasty. If there's a person in your league who doesn't realise that Tyjae Spears is probably going to be, what, a top 15, 16 running back as soon as we get to probably February, go out and buy him. Look, Derrick Henry is a free agent. He's likely going to be gone from Tennessee. Tyjae Spears has looked phenomenal. I think he's going to take over this backfield and be an absolute superstar next year. So if you're playing in Dynasty League, go and at least ask the question, I implore you, because I've been telling you to do it for the last 2 months. And yeah, now's your last chance. The other nugget I want to drop here, though, Tom, you know, we always talk about the difference between where the cash is going, where the tickets are going. Well, currently, 70% of the tickets are on the under, but 70% of the cash is on the over. So the sharps are telling us they think this line is going to go north and potentially going to be a little bit more of a shootout than the current over-under. Does that change your thinking at all?
Well, if you'd asked me this a few weeks ago, I would have said there was no way that Stroud clears concussion protocol. But over the last few weeks, we have seen a few players clear it a bit quicker, so maybe that's the thinking there. And if Stroud plays, absolutely, it suddenly has way more upside and way more interest for me.